And we're live with the Virtual Real Estate Investing Podcast. Frank, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing awesome, man. Glad to be indoors, escaping the New York heat. Austin was making fun of us before the podcast because I guess he's used to the heat being from Texas, and we're just Yankees up in New York, and we're complainers. But I am pumped to have Austin on the podcast. We got a great guest today. Austin, how you doing?
Doing good, man. There's a lot of buildings, so the air can't move freely. So I totally understand. So that 100 is actually probably 120. So we'll give you a break today.
Yeah, it's warm. I went for a run this morning, and I'm in all right shape, not great shape, but I went for a run this morning. It was so humid, I thought I was going to die. I was like, man, I can't do this. But all right, let's jump right into it. Austin, Construct Your Life podcast. I've listened to a bunch of the episodes. You're super inspiring guy. Can we start out with you telling our audience a little bit about your story, man?
Sure, man. You know, drugs are a hell of a thing, dude. They're they get you. They sneak up on you. You know, I worked in the restaurant business. That's where I got my start when I was 17, 18 years old, bar back, working in the kitchen. You know, back in the 90s, you know, it's not a joke. Like, it was very prevalent in the scene, and you start drinking and you get introduced to cocaine and methamphetamines, and you know, you're going through some personal issues. Also, your parents divorced, you know, a couple of things, you know, you're finding solace in the people that you're working with. And, you know, environment is really everything. Right. And, you know, the casual Friday to Saturday night, drugs turn into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then you wake up, you know, a couple months later, actually, pardon me, you don't wake up, you don't sleep. And then that, you know, you really start to wonder what happened, where the train got off the tracks. You know, your dad's a doctor. You grew up in a nice neighborhood. You know, you played sports your whole life, and it all culminated. One of the big things for me was I wound up staying up for like 8 days straight, and was taking Xanax at night to go to bed, but wasn't sleeping either. So you're like kind of like this yo-yo up and down. I think I took like 40 Xanax that week, along with a bunch of crystal meth. And I started seeing rabbits, but there were no rabbits anywhere. So like, it was starting to trip with my brain, and I didn't eat. And then the ex-girlfriend saw me, and she was like, man, you look terrible. You don't look good. Like, get your shit together. And I went home, and I packed up my stuff, and I just literally got in my car and just went to Austin, and like found a place to live and started working. And for whatever reason, I'm not saying it happens quickly, because I'm very stubborn, but when I make a decision, I'm done. Like, when I make a decision, like, my mind is just like, nope, not doing this anymore. And then the smell of those drugs actually like made me nauseous. And that to say that then I proceeded to be a functioning alcoholic for the better part of 20 years. And I've been sober now for 2.5 years. I've lost 70 pounds. And, you know, there's been a lot of turmoil and mess through that, but through the struggles, I'm able to help others in the same situation, because I can see it and I can spot it out. And so that's kind of my mission and journey these days, is to impact others.
That's incredible, man. So you drove to Austin. Where were you from originally?
So I'm originally from Houston, but I was in Beaumont, Texas. So Southeast Texas.
Yeah, we do houses there. So you drove to Austin, and did you still have any type of struggle with the drugs, or did you kind of alluded to that you almost went cold turkey? Is that accurate?
I went cold turkey. I might have used cocaine every now and then for like 2 years, give or take. Like, but I was done with the. It's kind of odd to say like, cocaine's not that bad compared to meth, but like, that meth stuff, it'll mess you up. You know, one of the things I told myself I would never put a needle in my body. So thank God I didn't get on heroin, because that's a hard one to come back from. But for me, it's really odd, right? Because, and I say this joke all the time, you know, alcohol is so socially acceptable in society that we don't deem it as a problem when we probably should, right? And so, especially selling liquor, selling wine, is what I did for 20 years, high-end bartender. it's so socially acceptable. I serve drinks and then I go out and drink. And so you're in the midst of that environment and it's kind of just known, like I'm off for work. I'm going to start drinking at 10 a.m. the next day, and you're making money. You're going to work. You're not affecting anybody, but you're not getting things done the way that it should be done. And I think the scary part of that conversation, what I just said out of my mouth, can be tied to being addicted to work, can be tied to addicted to Netflix, social media. It doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol. That's, I think, the scary thing. And I think that's what COVID really brought out of society. And that's what scares people the most, is the actual addiction that was killing America when COVID hit was work. But nobody wants to talk about that because they couldn't go to work. They couldn't go to their office, right? And they had to spend time with their loved ones and they had to watch their kids, right? And so, addiction is a scary word because it can be wrapped up into normal day things that we don't talk about as much because they're in society, they're accepted.
So you said when you make a decision, hey, life's changed, I'm stubborn, I'm going to stick with it. So was there a specific instance, both with the drugs and the alcohol, where like this happened, my decision is made, or was it leading to a certain point? Or talk us through where your mindset was to say, my mind is made up.
So I'll do a brief story, but when I moved to Austin, about 6 months in, I wound up getting really, really drunk one night and wound up wrecking my car and got out of this, got out of it, but I totaled my car, I lost my job, like all these things happened. And I had to move back home. And for a month, like I was partying still. And I came home and my mom, threw all my clothes out in a bag on the porch. And she said, you don't live here anymore. Figure it out. Your dad cut off your credit cards. You're done. Like, figure it out. So called my boy. He came, pick me up. Like, I'm crying. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm a 21-year-old. I'm crying, and he was like, listen, you got it out of your system. Let's figure it out. Okay. So he said, I got a guy that needs some help. He said, you're probably not going to like it, but deal with it. So I was laying brick and tile in Texas in July, and he picked me up at 5 a.m. and dropped me off at 7 o'clock at night. And I had nowhere to live. So I slept in a closet, and it's not like a figurative closet. That's an actual closet underneath the stairs of my buddy's brother's house. And I lived off $40 a month. And, when you go from a 3,500 square foot house on the golf course next to Kevin Garnett to a 50 square foot closet, there's some time for some self-reflection, especially when it's very dark in the closet. And you're just asking yourself, how did I get here? How did these multiple events get me to this place, right? And wound up saving up money, getting a car, getting my restaurant job back, and kind of, slowly but surely pulling my life back together. But that is all in the midst of still drinking. And so what happened to me 2.5 years ago was I met this gentleman through Instagram, and I had been looking for a group, a real estate group per se, or like entrepreneur group. And we were talking crap on DMs about like buying properties, and like, cause I had just bought my first one, and I was like, you're not going to buy it. I'm gonna buy it first. And like, he's like, hey, let's meet. Like, you sound really cool. So I joined that mastermind group, and that was M1. And it was the first time in my life at 34 years old that I was around other successful entrepreneurs that were sober, and they were 9 months and 12 months in recovery. And I saw that it was possible. And they said this simple statement to me: if you've ever thought about quitting, just try. Like, what an amazing, like, holy crap. Like, if I try, maybe it'll work. And so I wound up not drinking for 26 days. And I had a drink. I couldn't take it. I had a drink, and I was so mad about myself, and I didn't even like the drink. And then I waited 30 days. And then I was like, I'm going to make it 60 days. Well, I made it 60 days. And I'm like, what if I went 6 months? Oh my God. What if I went a year? Okay, I went a year. Oh, fuck, I don't even care anymore. I'm done. Like, and so it was really odd. But what's interesting is I didn't tell my story a lot because I didn't go to AA. I didn't do the regular stuff. I thought I didn't have a leg to stand on. But when I started sharing my story, I started realizing that more people had got sober the same way, and they were looking for help or guidance on investing or building a business and stuff like that. So, my coaching business kind of spurred out of me just helping people for free for years, and then kind of somebody said, "Hey, I want to pay you," and I was like, "No, that's not happening. I'm not doing that." And then wow, he did, and then here we are, years later. So it's been a wild road, but very it all served me.
And let's say on that 60-day period, when you got to 60 days and that was the point when you decided you're going to move forward,
Sure.
I'm sure you noticed a lot of changes in your own behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So from day 0 to day 60, like what changes did you see in yourself and maybe some of your daily habits?
What's interesting is what I tell everybody about getting sober or just anything that you start is chase the feeling. Chase the feeling of feeling better, right? I felt less lethargic. I didn't get tired in the afternoon, more clear-headed, less irritated, and kind of was like, you know what? Like, what if I felt like this all the time? Like, what if I didn't have to go back the other way? And, because I'm nuts, I started training for half Ironmans and kind of got addicted to that. There's a joke out there is you're going to be addicted to 5 things in your life. Make sure they're positive stuff, and so a lot of people that are in recovery get addicted to long distance running or, biking or stuff like that, because your alpha mind is feeding, it has to feed to something. And so, for me, that's business, that's helping people, that's working out, all that kind of stuff, which is I'll pick those over the other way.
Nice. So, some of that, it sounds like you do intentionally. Are there other things that you're like, hey, to make sure I never go back to that place, these are some of the tenets that I'm always going to make sure I live by, or certain things I'm going to make sure I avoid?
I've never really said this publicly, but I'll never drink again. Like, it's not a woulda, shoulda, coulda, what, like, I'm just good. Like, after like 9 months, I was like, no, never going to happen again. Because I look at what's happened in a 2.5-year span. And if I take that out over 20 years, like, holy crap. Right. But for me, and I believe this, anybody that's stuck in a rut or anybody that's not where they need to be, health is the pillar. Like, that is the quickest way to wins, the quickest way to leveling up, stuff like that. So for me, I think it was a year ago, like, it was towards the end of the year, and I was like, like, I really like to take it to the next level, moving into the next year. I want some momentum going into the year. And it was like October 1st. And I was like, what if I start 75 hard? So I started 75 hard, and I wound up going 150 days in a row. And I went in an ice storm. I went with like no water for a week. Like, I was still working out. And I thought to myself, like, holy crap, this is my new normal. Like, so my standards are so high now that like a simple this doesn't work for me. And so that for me really laid in some daily habits that I'll carry for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We have to talk about real estate at some point, just because we're a real estate podcast. Although we could probably talk about this for 2 hours. But so how did that help you transition into real estate? I'll say one thing: the real estate's a meritocracy, which is working in your favor, right?
Yeah.
So but how did it help you transition?
It's interesting. People, I say this and people get upset because I do coach a lot of young guys getting into real estate. Dude, your first couple properties, they're practice. It has not. Stop worrying about what you're making. I'm about to sell my last first property, like in like 30 days. And I think to myself, like, dude, that guy that bought that property, he didn't know what the hell he was doing. I mean, I started out Airbnb-ing an air mattress and a trundle bed, and then I was sleeping on the floor, and then I grew it up to like 130,000 in a year between 3 properties, and I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm doing this. This is amazing. And so, to be honest with you, separate from the profits that you make, the actual execution from start to finish of a property is more valuable than any dollar amount you would make, because it allowed me to kind of work my way into the system. I am a little bit of an interesting cat when it comes into real estate. For me personally, I'm not a huge day-to-day guy. It's not my thing. I'm a big level guy, relationship guy, money guy, putting people in the room together. But I lied to myself for many years saying that I wanted to be that guy. Like, hey, I'm gonna, I care that the plumber's here. No, I don't. I literally don't care. I want to be on a beach somewhere. I want to run everything from my phone. That's my dream, location independent. There's nothing that means more to me than anything. And it was actually a meeting with my mentor when I was walking a property, and he does about 12 flips at a time and about 30 wholesales a month. And he looks at me dead in the face and he goes, "You don't love this." He goes, "You don't love this." And I go, "How do you know what I was thinking right then?" He's like, "What you love is people. You love building people. You love building." So for me, transitioning, we're about to do our first one. I love construction and development. That's my thing. So I've been teaching myself for the last year. I used to work private equity. We lended money to investors. So I love construction because I control the project from start to finish. I'm not trying to buy the house that 20 other people are trying to buy. And then there's nothing, there's dirt, and then there's a house. And so for me, I'm a builder. So I've kind of gravitated towards that. That being said, those things take a long time. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. So
if you were coaching someone or advising someone, how do they play that game of where they end up, right? Because it seems like, if you've had a rental, you've had short-term rental, some development, some fun. I mean, we could go on and on, but that's a lot of different strategies that you've hit. Awesome that you found the right one. How do you know you found the right one? And how can you coach someone to maybe cut that learning curve?
Well, I think that you do have to dip your toe in a couple of different waters to see if it fits your lifestyle first. Second of all, I think that at the end of the day, you are not really going to know everything until you dive into it. One of the things that I coach on is do the things that give you energy. Like if those things give you energy and you like it, then keep doing it, because those things are going to change. You're going to level up. You're going to move into different parts of your career. But I think the number one mistake, if I could give any advice to any young kid, is create a mechanism within your businesses that generates steady cash flow every month. Like, you got to understand, these development projects that we're working on are huge, but they take 2.5 years, right? So like, if you don't have something in the interim, you are going to be stressed and you're not going to make decisions from a positive place. Because if you are in survival mode, you're not going to be making the right decisions. So if you can set up a wholesale business, if you can set up, $3,000 worth of cash flow or 2 Airbnbs that are generating the cash, then once you have that, then you can sit down and talk about your life. And the ways that we do this is we build out a 5-year plan, right? And people get so tied to this. They're like, "Oh my God, but what if this happens?" Well, dude, it's not set in stone. We're not etching it. It has pen and paper. You'll figure it out and stuff changes. I didn't know I was going to get divorced last year. I didn't know I was going to get laid off. Stuff happens. But what it does is it allows you to visualize, and I'm talking about dead serious, like, what's the color of the car I'm going to drive? Where am I going to live? And then you take that plan and then you break that into quarters and you set yourself goals on that metric. Like, hey, I'm trying to hit there. Too many times I see people that say, "Oh, I want to make $300,000 this year." I'm like, "Okay, have you made $100,000? Well, no, I haven't done that." Well, then what the fuck are you talking about? Like, nobody wants to grow anymore, right? And here's the deal. And I'm going to let you in on a secret, because y'all wholesale, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to let you in on a secret for any wholesalers out there, because I've seen everybody's business, because they're all my friends and I coach a couple of them. Stop putting your gross revenue on social media. We do not care. And I know what your numbers are. Stop.
I like it.
Same with your Airbnb guys. You know what's crazy? I know a wholesaler, there's no need to call names out, and they're talking about their gross margins, and I know their percentage is like 3% to net profit. So shut up.
Yeah.
What is your net cash flow? That's what I care about. I don't care about your unit count. What are you actually bringing in? I had a guy last night speak on my Airbnb mastermind. He's net cash flowing $7,000 from an Airbnb arbitrage. Do you think that he cares that he only has 7 units? No, he quit his job. We're focused on the wrong things, what the unit means to us, what this doesn't. Find things that work for you, systematize it, train people up. You know, one of the tricks that I think that people should do is when you're building a business, do videos for everything. We just hired 2 VAs today for the Airbnb hotel company. And the reason that's so easy is because we have 5 years of stuff to just keep them busy for a month and train them up. But you're documenting the process so you can make it easier for you on the back end. It's what people do is they work the process and then they don't have any of the material. And then they spend 6 months training somebody when they could have been training themselves for the last 2 years.
Yeah, there's so much truth to what you said about misrepresentation of profits and people overscaling their businesses. And some of it, I think, is we're in an environment that we're just so saturated with educators at this current point in time that are like, you got to continue to scale, right? Like you need a 7-figure business. And we've had students before, and I'm of the opinion most people should not be aiming to create a 7-figure business. Like most people should be solopreneurs. This is
the greatest conversation we're about to have, because there's nothing that I could be more passionate about than what you just said. Okay. There's a couple of things we need to debunk in America right now. Cause I just played golf with one of my best friends who retired. He retired at 27. No BS. And we were having this conversation for 3 hours on the golf course. There's a couple things we need to debunk. I'm going to work through them here. That passive investing sucks. Bullshit. It's amazing. Okay. Second thing is everybody should be an entrepreneur. No. Second thing is, and the biggest thing, that you need to scale. You don't need to scale. I'm going to let you in on a secret. You ready for this? You probably have him on the show after this. My coaching client. I meet him. He wants to leave his job as a multifamily broker. Okay. We get him going. He gets wholesaling March 1st. So I met him February 8th. March 1st, he sets a goal of 40. All right. Or March 30th. He gets 60,000 his first month. We set a new goal, July 2nd, 100,000. He's done $130,000 in 4 months. Wait for it. Do you know what his bills are per month? $400. He looks at me and he calls me the other day and he goes, why would I add on more people? There are people I have to answer to. I have another buddy in Arizona who's going to do $1 million net profit this year on flips and wholesales. And they have a team of 2 and he pays like $2,000 a month. And he brings all these people on his podcast, these big dudes, right? And they're like, no, dude, you got to scale. You got to scale. And he's like, why? He's like, I work from, no BS. He works from 6:30 to 8:30 every day and he golfs every day. I'm like, why does he need a scale? Because somebody tells that. I'm asking both of you, Jim, and I'd be very interested to think why you think they need to scale.
I don't think you need to. Like, I'm agreeing with you. Like, I think most people should not.
Why do you think people think they need to?
Big numbers, man. like there's
what the numbers make you feel.
I think people are taught like, hey, if you want to make $3 million in your wholesaling and flipping company, you probably need a couple of virtual assistants. You probably need a closer. You probably need a disposition manager. And listen, our business does look like that. That's kind of what Gray Line looks like. But I think John and I like running an organization and we like our team.
Yeah.
That's different. I don't think most people actually want that burden. So I think that's the question, at least for me, right? Do you enjoy managing your team? If the answer is no, like you can make money in real estate alone, but I like our team.
Yeah. I have a new goal. I just said it like two weeks ago when I was on a podcast. I thought of it. Now I'm not there yet by any stretch of the imagination, but my new goal is going to be, I want to work Monday through Wednesday. That's it. I do Monday through Wednesday. I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to run 3 companies and I'm going to run circles around everybody. And they're going to be working, because you know how many clients I have that are older than me, that have very successful businesses, that haven't had a day off in 10 years. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like what are you trying to, you're a millionaire. Dude, I had a guy tell me the other day, true story. He's got like 60 rentals. He's got like 3 million in the bank and he's 45. And he's like, hey, you know what I've always dreamed of doing? I would love a place in Florida on the water. I'm like, you've got 50 paid off rentals. You have 3 million in the bank. What the fuck are you waiting for, dude? We've been taught in society that we have to wait for this. Dude, and this is a true story because I know them for real. There are 22-year-olds and 23-year-olds that I know right now that are friends of mine that could retire right now. Like, and they're not going to because they love people and they want to work, but we're not looking at the things that we should be looking at. And so what I would ask everybody to do is get your business or your investing or whatever you do to a place where you're financially free, and then make decisions from there. Don't make decisions beforehand because that might change. You might have a kid, you might have to change your jobs. Your wife's family might get sick. We don't know, but give yourself the freedom, whether it's passively, aggressive, actively, but give yourself the freedom to be able to make that decision. That's the most important part.
So then if you achieve your goal of working 3 days a week, what do those other 4 days look like? And do you build those into the 5-year plan from the get-go?
So I really, really, really have a goal to give away like most of my coaching in my later years. Like I'd love to coach for free. We're talking about financial literacy courses for middle school and high school kids. I would love to give homes away, like to like veterans in the military. These are the things I think about. When I say I want to work Monday through Wednesday, I'm talking about scheduled meetings. Am I going to take a phone call? Of course, but I already don't schedule anything on Friday on purpose. So AAA Adams, Austin Adams, who's a great multifamily investor, he looked at my schedule a year ago and he was like, this doesn't work for me, dude. Pull it together. This is ridiculous. You got podcasts over here, podcasts over here, podcasts over there. This is a nightmare. You're trying to travel. So for me, how I do it, and this works for me, I front load my week. So Monday, Tuesday are very busy days. Like yesterday, I worked from 6 a.m. to like 7 o'clock at night. It was all coaching all day, group coaching, Airbnb coaching, but I got it done. So I'm done for the week on coaching. Today is meetings, podcast. Wednesday's meetings, podcast. Friday is golfing, maybe some investors and stuff like that. And then Thursday is like some meetings for the business. And if you love what you do, right? And so for me, my number one need is travel. Like that's my jam. But like when I was in Costa Rica, like a month ago, I was looking at a 500-acre ranch, like that I happened to run across this lake. So like, I just love it. Like you're talking real estate, you're talking business. And so it's more about creating this lifestyle environment where you're kind of doing it all the time.
Very nice.
I love it, man. I have to ask a lighthearted question.
Sure.
What's your handicap? I'm a golfer too. So
I'm
you've
not
mentioned
that
golf
good.
3 times.
I'm not that good, but here's the deal though. The reason I'm talking about it more is because in 3 weeks, I'm moving to Lake Tahoe. And I'm going to be overseeing some hotels with my mentor, Airbnb hotels. And there's a couple guys that run some funds up there. And my whole goal is to get on the course and find people that have boats. I want to go wakeboarding. So, I figured that'd be the nice place to meet him. So, I want to get back to it more for sure. It's full disclosure. The last 2 years have been wet and wild, man. It's been crazy, trying to get some of these businesses off the ground. It's a huge lift, especially when you're working on, big projects and some of these things is a hurry up and wait. And then we got really rocked with COVID in the short-term rental market. And we had to, our business went from a lot to zero. And so that afforded me and my business partner an opportunity to really sit back and talk about what we wanted over the next couple of years. And we wanted to focus more on the luxury model. And so that's where we're headed with that.
So when you're,
go ahead.
Sorry, when I'm fascinated by, if you're working with a bunch of students, kind of what trends are you seeing with them, right? Like where are these students getting in their own way? And can you give us some of that secret sauce?
Yeah, the number one issue I see, no matter where you're from, woman or man, Canada, wherever my coaching clients are, they don't love themselves. They don't think they're enough. They don't value themselves. It's the number one trend. The second trend is is that everybody's so focused on real estate knowledge and knowledge in general that they don't worry about mindset knowledge, or, they're not clear on their goals. They're not taking time for themselves. That's one of the number one things I see, is giving everybody else their time and not protecting their own energy.
So if you identify, if we're working together and I don't love myself, what are some ways I might be able to start improving that?
Affirmations, 100% sure would start. But I really, to be honest with you, it stems from this book, What You Say When You Talk to Yourself. It's $13 on Amazon. I bought 60 copies for everybody that I run into, because it's about reprogramming your subconscious mind. What people don't understand is that 80% of what we do is run off your subconscious mind. And when you have a good thought, your mind's like, well, I think that works. And then if you had that thought over and over again, it connects the synapses, and then it creates that positive reframing. Because really what it is you say, one of the problems I see a lot in people is they don't finish stuff, right? Like there's a lot of open-ended, as my mentor would say, there's a lot of half-pregnant babies running around the world, half-pregnant ideas, So, at the end of the day, that confidence of not finishing erodes your inner confidence, right? And so you have to start keeping those promises to yourself. So here's a simple example. When I got sober and I started 75 hard, or whatever you want to call it, whatever I do, I made a promise to myself that I would never not finish something that I signed up for anymore. Like, that's what I did my whole life. I'm not going to do it again. So when you see that I get viscerally aggressive, like angry, that I'm going to do it no matter if it's 10 degrees outside or whatever, it's because I made that dedication to myself that moving forward for the rest of my life, I was going to do what I said I was going to do. Because what I did in my 20s was a lot of talking. The question is, does your audio match your video? Like, do a little less talking, do a little more results. And so that's my conversation I'm having with myself. So I would say that, keep what you're planning to yourself, and let the results do the talking, and you don't need any of the other stuff. Just go out and execute, do what you need to for your family, for yourself, and everything else will take care of itself.
And when someone's on that path, people they start something, maybe they falter for a week, then the next week they get back on, they get a little bit better, then they struggle for a month and they get back on. Like, people, I feel like there's kind of like a climb to like become consistent. How do you coach people on, like, how do they manage their daily routine to get where they need to be? Because I think that's really important.
Yeah, well, I think one of the underlining facts of that they do that, they stop and start, or whatever, is they don't really want to do that thing. That's the first thing you need to address, because you don't really know what you want. That's the first thing. Second thing is that the secret weapon in this society and in this world is consistency. Consistency for consistency, meaning small compound things. So what I try to do is I say to a guy, I said, hey man, can you give me 7 days? Can you give me 7 days in a row? I don't care how much weight you lift. I don't care if you go for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Can you give me 7 days in a row? Yeah, I think I can do that. Okay, well, give me 7 days. Boom, I did 7 days. Can you sign me up for another 7 days? Yep, let's do another 7 days. Well, guess what? Now we're at 14 days. Okay, it takes 21 days for a new habit. It takes 90 days for a lifestyle. So when you do that over and over again, look, guys, we're not in PE class anymore. Nobody cares what you bench. Okay. Do you care about having a healthy lifestyle? Do you have a healthy relationship with your business? Do you want to learn better? These are the things to adopt. And moreover, and this is about to get really controversial because I kind of double talk on this one, but I think goals are fucking horseshit. I think goals are BS, because I don't think that people are writing goals for themselves. I think they're writing goals for what they think people want them to write, or what they think they should do. So for me personally, yes, I have goals, but they're markers. They're not, I'm not hanging my hat on them. What I hang my hat on is my values. Who am I as a person? What do I show up as? Because values can't be dictated off of external forces. Values are what you show up in any market, any real estate market. You know what? I bet y'all hear this all the time with your students. Well, I don't know if I should buy. The market's hot right now. Who cares? Who cares? Go find deals. There's deals out there. But that's the mentality that they have. So if you change this around to, one of my values is I'm always available for opportunities, well, then that changes the game.
Like it. So let's lean into the controversial statements a little bit. I like it. Looking on your website, you kind of, I may be paraphrasing, but it said something to the effect of none of that NLP bullshit, right? The neuro-linguistic programming.
Who wrote that?
You see it a lot in sales training, right? And I'm not an expert, so I don't want to pass judgment too hard. But what are some things that people in the real estate coaching, mastermind coaching space are putting out that you don't agree with, and kind of how are you different?
I think that I am a real, and this is just me, I'm a real feel guy. Like, I can go straight tactical with you if you need me to. I can really dive deep down in some weird stuff. It's actually very odd how deep I can go, but I'm more concerned about making sure that my program, my coaching is designed for you and what you need for your life, right? And I feel like sometimes in those space, especially in the bigger coaching space, is I call it the wood chipper. Like, here's John and here's Fred and here's Frank, and they're all the same person, and we're just going to slide them through the wood chipper and they're going to be better for it. No. You're different. He's different. They're different. And really getting into the thing, and I make my guys take a personality test so they know how to be talked to. I kind of dissect their thing, really trying to get into the grips of what they want. Maybe they want a kid, or maybe they just want to leave their job, or something like that. And kind of understanding that a lot of what happens is and I say this all the time, the easiest coach to hire is a wholesale and a flipping coach. Well, why is that? Because I'm going to give you this money, and there's going to be a direct correlation to, I'm giving you this 10,000 and you said you're going to make me 40,000. Okay. What am I supposed to tell them? Well, you're going to hire me and you're going to be happier. Well, who gives a fuck about that? They don't care about that. That's not quantifiable. They can't do that. So for me, the selling of me is more of, I almost have to have my own track record for myself to have that out in the public, right? Because it's exactly what happens. 100%. I could tell you without fail. They find out about me. They go listen to like 3 or 4 podcasts. They go, okay, you're not full of shit. And then they call me up. Well, that's my social credit, is me out in the podcast, speaking my mind, having interviews and stuff like that. So, one of the things that I've really focused on moving forward is that results are everything, right? And I think that we need to, if you ever want to do marketing at a high level, this is all you have to do. Write down what you've done and just talk about that. That's it. You don't never have to read another marketing book. I just solved the Rubik's Cube for you.
And regarding your students and the people that you coach, I don't know, I guess you don't want to call them students, they're people you coach. Do you have like a key demographic? Is it mostly men? Is it mostly women? Is it people in their 30s, 20s, or is it kind of run the whole gamut?
It runs the gamut, but a lot of my guys lately, I either have 2 segments. I have 22, 23 getting into real estate in recovery, or had an addiction. Or I have 32 to 50. Maybe they're successful. Their marriage isn't that great. They're not happy. But what's interesting is I don't have to seek my clients. They find me. And I don't mean that for my marketing. I mean that when they come to me and I look at them, I go, yep, been there, done that. And so it's a very comfort level, right? And kind of, understanding, like, I can see where you want. But what's interesting, right? And I'll be vulnerable for a minute. Like, dude, it's very awkward for me to coach like some dude that's worth like $3 million and he's like highly successful in real estate. And you're like, what am I doing? And he said, listen, dude, I don't need you to tell me about business. I need you to get me happy. And I'm like, he's like, I need you to get my wife not to hate me. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, I can handle that. And so you have to suspend judgment on who they are, right? and say, how can I help this person? And that's really the only thing that matters in this moment.
I like it. Sorry, Frank, I keep interrupting you. Go ahead, man.
No, so it's interesting. I'm reading a book, or I read one recently, and in the book they talk about the concept of a desirable difficulty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like dyslexia, for example. There's a disproportionate number of billionaires that are dyslexic. Virgin CEO Russell Branson. So, like in this particular case, do you think that people that are on the path to recovery sometimes do have an advantage once they get to the other side?
It's the only people I hire. Dude, they are like shot out of a cannon because they know the low. They know it, and they're so excited to be happy. Dude, look, I'm very hard on myself. I'll just be 100% honest. I'm very hard on myself. But when I really step back and look at it, you know what I do? True story. I go back and listen to the first podcast I ever was on, and I'm like, dude, that guy went through some shit. Like, fuck me. Like, look at me now. Like, this is so great, you know? And so we have to kind of give ourselves the break. But I really think that we need to remove ourselves from labels, right? Like ADHD, dyslexic. Yeah, it's all those things. But that doesn't mean that should stop you. That doesn't mean that should do anything, because it's just whatever. And guess what? When you overcome it, like, it's going to be that much more in the hero's journey. John, what were you going to say?
You have an infectious energy and motivation about you. So we're going to try to wrap it up. But before we do, what do the next 10 years look like for you? Right. I feel like, hopefully when you look in the mirror, you can see everything you've accomplished. But I would imagine you're also the type of guy that isn't done climbing. Right. So what are some of those big goals, or maybe those big accomplishments that we won't label as goals, but they'll be reflective of your values, right? Like, what are some of those big things look like over the next 10, 20 years for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've really been, somebody asked me that the other day, like, what would you be interested in? For me, it's a lot of I'm really looking into funds right now. I really like to have a couple different funds, one for charity, one for, I really want to invest in middle school, high school businesses. I think that's the coolest thing in the world. You meet all these entrepreneurs, mentors of mine, and kids are like 13, they already have businesses. I'm like, this is amazing. This is awesome. I really want to do a fund. We're going to go heavy in construction over the next 6 years, do a turnkey rent model. My biggest thing that just happened to me, I'll be honest with you, I've checked the text about 16 times because it doesn't feel real. But I'm moving to Lake Tahoe, California, and I'm going to oversee about 67 units currently. He's bought 3 hotels. We're going to buy some more, tap into my 20 years hospitality. But for me, man, I hope to have kids in the next year or two, kind of put that off for a long time. But just, I'll be honest with you, the more and more I go down the entrepreneurship, and something Frank said earlier really resonated with me, the more and more I go down the entrepreneurship avenue, it really is about creating jobs for me. I think that there's a lot of great humans out there. And I think that I think that corporate America at its core has all the people in the wrong position. And I think they're not really tapping into the strengths and weaknesses of a human and really putting them in a position. We walk around and act like everybody needs $1 million. There's 1 million people out there that if they were making 65 grand a year and they were happy as hell at their job, they would be just the best. They'd be able to spend time with their kids. And so one of my specialties, and I think self-awareness is probably the number one key along with consistency, is I'm really good at spotting talent. Like, I'm really good at like saying, no, you shouldn't be there. You should be over there. So that's kind of where I've positioned myself in my roles as my company and kind of sales, marketing, investor relations. But yeah, we're just going to travel a bunch. If I'm really being honest, my dream is to move to Tuscany and get 10 acres and, have cook for my Airbnb guest. And, I think what's going to happen, I'm on a 7-year plan right now. I don't think I'll ever not coach, but I'm on a 7-year plan to build up all my companies, sell them all off, take a year off, and then decide what I want to do with the rest of my life. That's kind of where I've set the marker in my mind. That's kind of where I've set. So I'll be like 45. So
that's great. Well, where can people find you if they're down with your energy and momentum that you're putting out in the world? How can someone get in touch with you, potentially explore a coaching relationship?
Sure. You can go to austinlinney.com, Linney. You can hit me up on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. I'll totally respond to you. But yeah, man, I can't thank you enough for having me on. Super excited at what y'all got going on. And, just keep fighting the good fight.
I love it, man. We appreciate your time. Also, Austin's got a great podcast, Construct Your Life podcast. Had a ton of episodes, bunch of good guests. So
yeah, and I also have a second podcast too because I'm a masochist. So we have a true story. The Construct Your Life started last year on April, and I did 240 episodes in 11 months. So I was a banshee. But we've got a second podcast called Brain Dump with Anthony Vicino of Victus Capital out of Minnesota, where we study the psychology of success. So a lot of cool interviews on that one too. We're like 20 in on that one. So yeah.
Excellent.
200, well, that's a crazy number. Before we go, I just got to acknowledge podcast is not easy. It's
here's
hard.
the deal. Here's the deal. I was unaware people didn't do 9 interviews in a day.
Yeah. So we do 2 a week, and it's a lot while running some other stuff. We got other stuff going on.
For sure.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Cool. Really appreciate your time, Austin. Frank, take us out, brother.
You always put me on the spot at the end, and I have nothing good to say. I just want to thank Austin for coming on and for allowing us to have some fun. And we took a little bit of a break from real estate, which is nice once in a while. But
I have something. Be careful when you're taking your ladder and you're writing your goals down. You're building your house. That your ladder's not put on the wrong house. So make sure that you're clear on your goals and what you want for you alone, and make sure that the ladder is being built on the right house.
I like it.
Awesome, man. All right. Thank you.